Hello, everyone. Wait, I need to. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Fantasy Fiends podcast. I'm Stevie Collier, and I am here with Andy today, along with the wonderful Agnes.
I'm going to say Jankiewicz because that's how it's
Jankiewicz.
probably supposed to be pronounced, but let's see how it's actually pronounced.
Well, Stevie was pretty close. It's Jankiewicz.
Jankiewicz. Oh!
Jankiewicz.
You guys did not make my top three list, though, of mispronunciations. The worst one so far being Jankiewicz.
Jankiewicz.
Yeah.
Oh, that's amazing.
That's how I have to spell it out in my head when I'm typing it out. I've just stopped completely. I just copy and paste it now.
Jankiewicz. Oh, wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Jankiewicz. Well, welcome everyone to the podcast. I'm the gnome, and we also have the giant. That's the new thing we're starting because I found out last week that Andy is actually 6'5" and Japanese, and I am 5'8" and all American.
So yeah, we're gonna have a new intro. Greetings from the giant and the gnome, or something like that. We still gotta figure it all out, but
I like it. That's awesome. We could probably have like a caricature done.
Ooh, that would be awesome.
Yeah, that would be really cool.
I've been called the Jolly Green Giant for the last, 15 years or something. So
are you serious?
Sort of a persona that I'm familiar with.
I was just, Facebook creeping you, and I was like, why does this guy seem so tall to me? Every picture he's in, he's just taller than everybody else. His head's about to hit the ceiling.
Yeah. Unfortunately, growing up in Japan,
yes, I was just gonna say
a mark across my forehead like this from banging into doors and stuff.
I bet people were just like looking at you like you were crazy, like Gojira.
Pretty much.
Oh wow. Yeah, this podcast just went there. So. All right, Andy, what's up next?
Okay, so the word for the day. We're going to go straight to the word for the day for this week. The word is confusticate. Now, this is one of my favorite words because it means to confuse or perplex, bewilder, and it's from the Hobbit. And seeing we're talking about old school fantasy, or we're going to talk about old school fantasy, it's the perfect thing. I believe it's Bilbo that says it. As all the dwarves are, coming into his his house to have that big feast in the beginning, and he says, "Confusticate and be bother these dwarves." Such a great little old English word there.
It's a mixture of. It sounds like a mixture of confusion and frustrate.
Yeah.
And someone just like, you know what? That's the word we're going to start using, and I'm contacting Merriam-Webster right now.
Well, you definitely confusticated me for about 2 seconds when you said the word initially.
I've never heard that.
It worked.
I've never heard that word.
I always thought it was confusticate, but then I did my due diligence and I found that it was totally mispronounced that way. So confusticate.
I feel like if you wrote that into your novel, all beta readers would catch it and just email you. What is this? This does not. I mean, you would have to. Confusticate. Now I have to try and use it.
I've actually had pretty much every single beta reader that has read my stuff tell me that whinge is not a word. The word whinge is sort of a childish whine. It's a very British English word, but it's such an awesome word.
A whinge. W-I-N-G?
W-H-I-N-G-E.
Whinge. I'm looking that up right now. Whinge.
It's such a fun word because it's not whining per se. Like whining is a very childish or a high-pitched thing. Whinging is just the sort of thing that grown people do when they're acting childish.
Okay, I like that. Whinge. Like me whinging about being sick.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yes.
Okay, so because we're having fun with this, Agnes, why don't you tell us a little bit about you and your journey as a fantasy reader? Let's start with the reader side of things.
Okay, well, my, I guess, first encounters with fantasy, I'd say, was through Polish legends. And the one that comes into mind is actually one that I learned, or my parents used to tell me as a kid, and it was about a dragon that terrorized Vavel Hill. and
that's a good
all
story
these
for
knights
children.
came out to, yeah, all these knights came out to try and defeat him. Couldn't defeat him. Finally, a tailor's apprentice came, and he had he filled a sheepskin with I think it's sulfur that anyway, some sort of chemicals, and the dragon eats the sheepskin, becomes so thirsty he proceeds to drink the entire river until he explodes.
You know, I think I've actually heard that one.
Yeah, it's pretty well known. Flash forward though a couple of years later, fantasy was actually what got me into reading. Not a lot of people know this, but I'm actually dyslexic.
Are you?
Yes, and for me, reading was always a huge challenge. One day I went to a bookstore though for a field trip, and I picked up a copy of Martin the Warrior, which I've got right here. And
oh yeah,
that was my first encounter with it, and I wanted so badly to know what was in this book, but because my reading level wasn't up to par, I actually read the entire dictionary back and forth along with the thesaurus to memorize all the words that I could, because one of the things with dyslexia is word comprehension. So you'll hear words, but you won't actually understand what they are. It's not necessarily only everything kind of going up and down and all over the page. So that's
I'm seeing a trend. I'm seeing a trend, Agnes. You're always really prepared. So apparently Agnes went and watched or listened to all 5 podcasts, which is over 5 hours, just to be on here. So she actually did her homework, and now we learn that just to read a Redwall book, she has read the dictionary front and backwards along with the thesaurus. So can't say I've done that.
Living embodiment of a Swiss Army knife. Always be prepared.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she can knit freaking flags. What is going on here? As she sips from her Slytherinstein.
Yeah. So the flag behind me is actually it's from the Q16 series, and it was one of those things that I kind of did myself. So.
And if you can't see it because you're listening to the podcast, it is a huge flag, and it looks super difficult. Nothing that Andy and I could ever do, probably. Andy, maybe I shouldn't speak for you. Are you just like this secret flag maker that I don't know about?
I'm probably the world's best tailor.
Are you?
Disguise, just haven't quite mastered it. These big fingers are not so great with the little tiny needles.
You know, I'm a world-class tailor, but on World of Warcraft.
I think that counts. That still counts to some degree, right?
Yeah, that's true. And we can see that you're a huge...
We'll give that to you, Stevie.
Yeah. Yes, please. We can see that you're also a huge nerd just from your room. We were talking about it before the podcast. Agnes, I'm going to go ahead and say that you are a Dragon Ball Z fan, a Skyrim fan, and where is that sword from?
I don't remember the name of the series, but it's one of the Kit Rai swords. He's a sword designer.
That's not Longclaw from Game of Thrones?
No, it's not. I don't remember the name of the sword at the moment, but it was one of the first ones I got from the set. I've actually got a whole bunch of them. They're just put away right now.
Damn, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That is cool.
Stevie, what about you? Where did your journey as a fantasy reader begin?
I am so glad you asked. It's something I was just sipping my coffee and like, what was I going to say? That was it. When I was in 4th grade, I picked up a Redwall book because I saw a tiny little mouse with a sword, and it was called Mateo. That's it, right? It's called Mateo, right?
Yeah, that's one of them.
Yeah, so I picked that up, and I was reading like, damn, this is hard. Well, I didn't say damn. I probably said, I don't know what 4th graders say, but it was way too hard for me to read. And well, long story short, I didn't go pick up a dictionary to read this book. I sure didn't. I already didn't care for reading that much. And but I will say that it was one of the first books that from Mateo, I went to Jeremy Thatcher, Dragon Hatcher. And it's not a well-known book, but it's about a boy and a dragon. And well, he gets an egg from a pawn shop, and it hatches into to a dragon, and it's invisible. was freaking awesome. So I was trying to draw dragons, and I had a little book that I would draw like dragon comics. So, and I'd sell them to my friends and stuff like that. And I could never draw. So I had to write stories in order to give away my ideas, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. A businessman from the very beginning.
Yep, exactly. And I went to ISS, which is like detention for private schools, because I would sell these comics. And we weren't allowed to. I was like, it's 25 cents. It's not going to break these kids' banks. So, but that's where I got my start. You're right, Andy. It was half business, right? I was already trying to sell my work. I wasn't just giving it away. No, you have to read my 4th grade work for a quarter.
No, thank you.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
I mean, if it's anything like my 9th grade work, it's going to be just utter rubbish. So
Really? I think I told you about that time I went to a Catholic school, really strict school, and they made the mistake of giving me paper and a pen and saying, all right, class, we're going to do creative writing today. Write whatever you want. And I asked the teacher, I said, I can write whatever I want. No problem. And they're like, yeah, write whatever you want. So I wrote, I think I told you this, Andy, I wrote about a weasel who snuck into an orphanage and slayed all the kids. And
yeah, I think I remember that story.
And they sent me to the priest to see if I was like demented. No, they seriously sent me to the priest.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, and the priest just laughed and like, why are you even here? And I was like, I don't know. So that was my time at Catholic school. It didn't really help my writing career. So enough about me. I'm sorry. I kind of rambled on about my weasel story.
Yeah, no, it's good. My journey with fantasy actually started with Sherlock Holmes. Sherlock Holmes is late 1800s, early 1900s, I think, the publication date. And it's sort of the earliest almost fantasy, because Sherlock Holmes is a very fantastical concept, a character. You know, no one has that amazing deductive ability. So it's you know, it's real life, but it was so fantastical and so out there. So after reading Sherlock Holmes, I went to Tarzan, which was super popular at the time in my school. From Tarzan, the same author who wrote Tarzan wrote the Warlord of Mars series, which is, instead of sword and sorcery, it's like sword and science. It's set on Mars, and they have, you know, spaceships and stuff, but there's all these awesome sword fights and things like that. And I was like, oh shit, I want to keep reading this. And then I stumbled upon Conan the Barbarian, and that was the end of me. I never came out of fantasy, because I don't know how many short stories there are. There are a good 20 to 30 at least. And so just going through them all, it was like,
really?
Okay, and then give me more. Yeah. Not only the ones written by Robert Howard, but then the ones written by L. Sprague de Camp, and then at least 1 or 2 more authors after them.
You actually read real literature. I'm talking, I started with Goosebumps.
Oh yeah, no, I was much more refined and cultured.
Yeah, okay. So wow, the haunted house and the haunted mask is not refined enough for Andy's tastes. Why don't you go back to Japan? Agnes, are you Polish?
I am, yes.
Okay.
My parents, they're both from Poland, and they actually they had to come to Canada because my dad was part of the solidarity movement there, or he was involved in some capacity. I don't exactly know what it was, but they were on their honeymoon and basically got a telegram saying, you have 2 choices. You can, you know, they got your name. You can go to Poland, or you can go to Canada or the States. And based on a book, he actually chose Canada.
Which book?
I don't know the translation. The author was Arcady Fiddler, I believe. It was a nature book about Canada, his travels in Canada. So here I am now.
And where are you at right now in Canada?
Pickering, Ontario. It's right beside Toronto.
Okay. I just got a beta reader from Quebec, and we had a series of French emails back and forth, so that was nice. But I think there's more. Now, I may be wrong. There's more French speakers in Montreal as opposed to Ontario, right? Or are there? Okay.
Yeah. I mean, there's still like a lot of different cultures within where I am, but yeah, it's predominantly English speaking.
Okay. So. Andy, I'm having a feeling like I'm about to skip the format by asking Agnes to tell us about her work.
That's totally fine. I'm so used to this as you just totally messing everything up. So.
Yep. I got it.
Improv.
That's what I love. I love improv. Agnes, tell us about the Q16 series.
Okay, well, it is a portal fantasy, and it's about a couple of kids from Toronto who find out they've inherited a base under the Atlantic Ocean, which is guarding a castle with portals to other worlds. So that's kind of the short summary of it. It's a lot more complicated than that.
I was guessing. Can you explain portal fantasy to our listeners and a little bit me?
Okay. So it's starting off, I guess it can start off in one world. So usually it's a contemporary world like ours, and it crosses over into a fantasy setting or sometimes science fiction setting. Okay. That's
Lion, Witch, and the Wardrobe is classic.
Yeah, Lion, Witch, and the Wardrobe. That's the first one that comes to mind. Or Chronicles of Amber, if you've read those.
You know, I read Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, and if we can say that's a refined piece of literature, then maybe I am a little bit refined.
That's definitely classic. Great stuff.
Okay. Well, you know, they wouldn't allow you to read it in my you could read that, but you couldn't read the Spyglass, the polar bear. There's a polar bear in the movie. Oh, yeah, we weren't allowed to read that one.
His Dark Materials, is that it? Is that the series?
Yeah.
It's the polar bear with the armor on it. We weren't allowed to watch it for some reason.
It is that one.
Yeah.
And no Harry Potter. And so, but the great thing was when you tell a 9-year-old you're not allowed to read a certain book, I'm going to read that book. All right. So it's probably a good thing because I would they can't stop me from going to Barnes and Nobles or the public library and getting these books. So that was probably a good thing that happened because I was just like stuffing these forbidden literatures, down my throat.
That was how I got into the Wheel of Time series. We also didn't have access. We were sort of not supposed to read that sort of thing. And I was at a Goodwill store, and they happened to have, I think, the first 4. And I was like, okay, I've got a 10-hour drive till I get back home. I'm going to buy these 4. They cost like $1 each or something.
Breaking the bank.
Yeah. And, to start reading them. And after I was just like, okay, I've got to get the next ones and the next one. And I think by the time I read them, there were already 10 out or something. And so I was just like devouring them. And of course, they're door stuffs. So they took plenty of time for me to read, but it was such a
you're a fast reader. You are a fast reader, and that's some bull because I'm like the slowest reader. So not only are you tall and fast reader, I'm short and the slow reader. I got the short end of the stick. Ha 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 ha.
Terrible pun time.
Yeah, it is. It's always terrible pun time.
Yeah. Now, Agnes, let me ask you this. One of the things, I'm not a huge fan of portal fantasy, just because I feel like so much of the focus is placed on the before they go into the portal that maybe 25% of the book is dedicated to everything that leads up to them discovering the portal. So there's not enough time to develop the story afterward. But then in the next books, there's less development of the real world. Like instead of there being sort of a balance between the storylines going on in the current world and in the portal world, it's sort of off kilter. How did you approach it?
So I think right within the second chapter is when they're introduced to sort of their first crossing over into a portal. I don't really waste too much time on it. There's a little bit of the characters having to deal with knowing about this other world or other worlds throughout the book and kind of adapting and learning to deal with it as instead of just it being a fantasy, because they're also fantasy readers in the book. So I tried to cut as much of that out as possible, though it's still within the second book. there's even less of that. And even within the first book, they kind of, as the story progresses, it goes from familiar territory into more uncanny, even with the races that they encounter within the books. They become more and more outlandish the farther they go.
You know, why? Okay, are you familiar with the genre lit RPG?
I haven't heard of it, no.
Well, I see you like anime because I see the Full Metal Alchemist, right? You like anime?
Yeah.
Okay, have you seen Sword Art Online?
Bits and pieces of it, I haven't. I have seen Dot Hack.
Okay, well, it's about people stuck in a virtual reality world, right? So
okay.
Couldn't you say people who get into a machine and it puts their brain into a computer or in another world, that could also be Portal? Or does your whole body have to go to this new world?
The idea is that there's an actual portal that you go through. Like that's why it's called Portal Fantasy. Yeah.
Oh, there's like an actual portal. I thought it would be like a theme that, you know, a wizard touched you and you just like flew to another fantasy world. It actually has to be a portal.
Well, no, not necessarily a physical portal that you go through, but there has to be a portal concept, and the virtual reality thing is different. Than that, sort of like a video game of the Hunger Games versus actually being in the Hunger Games. Like it's just a different genre. For marketing purposes. Really, it's very similar.
So that does bring up an interesting point, because what if you find yourself within a realm where you don't have a physical body?
Is it still Portal?
You're gonna have to give us a little bit more than that, because I have no idea how to answer that one.
Yeah, I pictured like an ethereal, floating gas ball, and it has your spirit but not your body. Which is, I mean, that's what I was kind of asking. Like, is it still Portal Fantasy if your body is still intact in our world, but your mind is somewhere else? Oh, you know what? Better question. Have any of you read The Talisman by Stephen King?
No.
That might be Portal Fantasy. He, well, man, I'm surprised you haven't read. That's a pretty good one too. You know, Andy, we have not brought up Stephen King once in this in our podcast.
Well, Stephen King is technically horror. He's not really fantasy, so.
I'm just surprised because every other literature podcast I listen to, it's like Stephen King, Stephen King, Stephen King, Stephen King, even if it's not about horror. So
I think it's because he's considered like an expert on the actual craft of writing and storytelling instead of just horror stories. So
yeah, I read his On Writing. I liked it. He's hardcore though. He's definitely hardcore.
Yeah.
So, so are we keeping the theme of this week a surprise to our listeners?
No, the theme is the journey into fantasy. It's on the title of the thing, and so which is why we were talking about how we all got into reading fantasy. I guess we'll go back to Agnes. How did you start writing fantasy? What made you decide that fantasy was the choice for you?
I guess it was just my inability to ground myself in the real world with my writing. I actually went to university for film. And, you know, they got you writing out all these little short screenplays. And because you're limited kind of with what materials you have to deal with, a lot of what you're filming and shooting and writing happens in the real world. And by the time I was in my fifth and final year, was when I kind of went, you know what, I really just want to write fantasy. And Q16 was one of those things that had been with me since, I guess, elementary school. And it started off as stories I used to tell my friends, and then we kind of turned it into a bit of an RPG game as we got older and learned what D&D was.
Oh, yeah.
And it, you know, it was kind of always there in the background. And eventually I just went, you know what? I'm never going to turn this into a screenplay because it would just be insane to like sell. And, you know, I managed to write out 1,000 words about a movie that I don't really care about within one night because I'm procrastinating like crazy. Why can't I just take those 1,000 words and write about something I'm passionate about? So that's what I just did. I sat down every night 1,000 words, 1,000 words, 1,000 words. By the time I looked around in a year, I'd done an entire book.
Wow.
Yeah. How many words is this book?
Eye to All Worlds, which is the first book in the series, it's 277,000. It's a pretty big book. Thick book. I mean, it's around, I think, check.
That's pretty thick.
It's around 700 pages. Yeah, 702.
Yeah, because I was looking on Amazon. I was like, 700 and something pages. That's, yeah. Whoa. So you, when did you start writing this book?
So I guess I would have started when I was about 14, but I shelved it for a couple years because I told myself, I was like, I don't have enough knowledge to complete this. By knowledge, I meant like real world knowledge of just like life in general.
That makes sense.
And I it's funny because I subconsciously told myself, I'm like, I'm not going to write this till I'm in my 20s. And kind of for a couple of years as I was getting ready to go back into university and all that, there's a period of a few years where I just forgot. There was a lot of things going on in my life. And then, finally I'm 26, 27, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to write this now. And then I sat down and fully penned it out. I had all my points by then, where I wanted to go and whatnot.
Okay, so you outline.
I do a little bit, maybe a lot. Okay,
well, you and Andy are outliners. I'm definitely a pantser. So I'm probably the definition of pantser. When I sit down, I have no idea where I'm going that day. No idea. I just get really, really lucky. But short story right here. Yesterday I got my very, very first bad review. Oh. It hurt so bad. It hurt. Oh. Andy, why didn't you prepare me? Andy, have you ever had any bad reviews that just hurt you so bad?
At the beginning, I did have some bad reviews, and they really. I mean, I still get bad reviews. Let's just make that clear.
Yeah,
At the beginning, it really hurt, but then a couple of weeks ago, I got this email that the guy basically just lambasted my work, and he was like, there's too much reflection, there's too much, the character's too focused on his problems and all of that, and it doesn't flow. And I was like, okay, have a great day. I appreciate the feedback. There's nothing I'm going to do to change the book. Yeah. So, it's the way it is.
No, you should go back and rewrite them.
Yeah. But it just sort of flowed off my back. Like, good. Okay, this is someone's opinion. And he's welcomed his opinion. There may be a lot of validity in what he says, but it doesn't affect me as much anymore. Now, on the other side, I just got about 600 comments from a beta reader, and I'm literally rewriting the entire 4th book in my Assassin series because it just wasn't up to par. So, and it's definitely got me, oh my God, I should be better than this. I shouldn't be making this many mistakes at this stage.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I know I took us off track a little bit like I usually do, right, Andy?
Absolutely.
But back to starting fantasy. I really want to go off what Agnes said about not being able to be grounded in your I feel like if I sat down to try and write an urban fantasy, that I just couldn't. Somehow a dragon would get mixed in, and then all of a sudden my character would be on a plains with an iron great sword. And but that's not really what I wanted to say. Was when I was in school, I was bullied, like a lot of students, like a lot of kids are. And I transferred over to a middle school, and I was in 6th grade. I was small. I knew no one, not a single person, and they just kind of threw me in there. And there was only 4 kids in my class, so I had to either go up and hang out with the older kids or the younger kids. And I got to the lunchroom, and the only person who asked me to sit next to them was this. Oh, he was so nerdy. It was bad. It was bad. Like, he was really nerdy. I sat by him, and I was like, "What are you doing?" He's like, "Oh, I'm just rewriting the whole Fellowship of the Rings." And he had the book out. He was just like, he was just copying it out. and he would copy out a page and then he'd go write his own page. And that just, I never thought writing a novel would be possible after seeing him do that. I was like, you're seriously just going to sit there, and I don't know what he was doing to this day, but that was my first like thought of writing fantasy. So, and then I would go home and I would write these stories and just show my little brother, you know, and they were always dragon based and sword based. So I would say it kind of took me out of the reality and into a better world.
And I think that's one reason that a lot of authors get into fantasy in the first place, is just sort of how different it is. You know, the sort of problems that your characters, my characters, Stevie's characters, they all face such different problems than what we face. You know, instead of, oh my God, it's tax time and we've got to sit there for an hour, for a day and fill out all this paperwork. Yeah, screw that. My thief girl's going to go rip off the richest person in the city by stealing a golden sarcophagus. So how am I going to make that work? I don't care about my taxes, you know?
Yeah,
so
true.
Not only when we read it, but when we write it, because it presents us with these problems that we're so unused to solving, but because we're creating the story, we can solve them. And so there's this sense of accomplishment, like, okay, we've done something good, but it's so different from the problems that we face in real life that it's not like, oh, you know, it's more of that crap, but it's something different. It's new. It's fun.
There's a scene I wrote within the first Q16 series, actually, that rings really true to that. And it's the Lincarius Helos. He's one of Anetta's companions, and he's from another world. He's sitting in a room on her sofa playing video games with her brother, trying to master just, you know, jumping over a ledge, and he doesn't get it. He's like, I don't know why you find this so amusing. And she opens her window and shows him the skyline for Toronto and says, because I get to escape this.
Wow. Dang.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
That was me when I was little.
I'm looking for this quote by Neil Gaiman about escapism. I found sort of a snippet of it. It says, I think that pretty much every form of fiction, obviously fantasy included, can actually be a real escape from places where you feel bad and from bad places. It can be a safe place you go, like going on holiday. And it can be somewhere that, while you've escaped, actually teaches you things you need to know when you go back, that gives you knowledge and armor and tools to change the bad place you were in. And the quote goes on to say something like, if you were a prisoner and someone gave you a way to escape, you would take it. So why not take the escape that fiction and fantasy offers? And one of the things that I love about fantasy is that it's a look backwards. It's a look at all the mistakes that we made throughout history. I mean, if you read any fantasy novel, you're going to see things like racism, classism, slavery, sexism, all of these things. And in the 1200s, 1300s, 1400s, whenever the fantasy is set, that stuff was just par for the course. You know, no one blinks an eyelash when my character insults a woman in my fantasy story, because that was just so normal. But by highlighting it like that, it's like, okay, so this is how wrong things were before. Mm-hmm. So let's be better than that. It's sort of a look at the past. How can we do better than we were yesterday? Whether it's the warlike nature of mankind, whether it's the how common, you know, the 7 deadly sins, pride and honor and all of that was so much a driving force behind action. And so we can look at fantasy and we can say, okay, these people were stupid for doing that. They were so bound up by these things, or they were so stuck on these ideas that are so obviously wrong. And it's a way of showcasing ways for us as humanity to improve.
What I took from that quote was that you can actually solve real life problems by reading fantasy. And I think that's really cool. I know Ender's Game isn't fantasy, but I feel like I actually did learn a lot from that book on how to solve bullies. You know, you kill them in the shower. Yeah.
Yeah. So, well, science fiction, any speculative fiction, really, anything that takes you out of the modern setting, urban fantasy too. You know, as much as I am not a huge fan of urban fantasy as a genre.
You love vampires.
Not even a little bit.
I know Twilight's your favorite book, man.
Well, that's sort of my secret that you weren't supposed to tell people on,
Oh,
on
Agnes.
live.
No,
Too late.
I'm so sorry,
Too
Agnes.
late. It's all over social media now.
Wow. Yeah. But I'm looking at this script you gave us basically, and you're right. There are so many characters and so many names. I feel like I am just going to wreck. I'm really excited for this.
Yeah.
I am too, because this is one of those scenes where I've wanted to read it for a while now, but every single time I want to, my editor goes, no. This does not give the essence of the books. I'm like, come on, man, it's hilarious. Like,
yeah, you can't listen to your editor. Who listens to their editors anymore?
I don't know. I was told it's a thing we're supposed to do as writers.
You listen to your heart, Agnes. Your heart.
Try to do that too, but
so where did you come up with these names? Are they Polish?
Oh, all over. Puck is actually from Shakespeare.
Okay.
And pretty much everything about his character is an Easter egg leading to one or another Shakespeare play. So Puck from Midsummer Night's Dream, his last name Thainstorm is actually a reference to one of the opening lines in Macbeth, where I forgot how the line goes, but Macbeth is storming a thaindom, or he becomes a thane because he storms this. I forgot where it was. The last time I read the play was in grade 11, so.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, it's a reference to one of those lines. Brachus.
That's a really cool name.
I
might steal that one.
I don't remember where I came up with the name actually, but I wanted kind of something Roman sounding, so I ended it with the US at the end.
You know, that reminds me. When I went to Rome, some guy came up to me and he didn't say a word. He just pointed at my nose. Seriously, like, see my nose, like it's kind of big. He pointed at it and he goes, and he asked me in Italian, am I Italian? I figured he was asking me if I was Italian because I heard Italian in his speech. And I was like, no. He's like, you have the Roman nose.
Totally.
Yeah, you have the Roman nose. And then he had me take off my shoes, right? And I knew this guy was trying to sell me something, but these Italians, they have this way about them. You just want to take your clothes off. So I took my shoes off for this guy, and he looked at not my big toe, but the one next to him. He's like, yes, you are Roman. You are ancient Roman. Look at your toes. So I gave him like $10 for him doing a drawing of me and my feet. But I never got the product either. He just ran away with it. No, I didn't get it. But you said I was looking for something Roman. You could always have me in your next book, Agnes, if you need someone Roman. I have the chiseled chest of a Roman. Yeah, exactly. So, and real quick, did you get?
Can be Collie.
Sorry, what was that?
The character's name can be Collie.
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 Why Collie?
Because your name's Collier. Collie. Like it can be male or female, and you got two characters right there.
I like Collie. I know you're trying to make fun of me, but I like that name. Is Link from Zelda?
So that is his nickname, actually. His full name is Linkarius.
Okay. I was hoping it was from Zelda.
No, he is actually the polar opposite. He is not a hero. He is a failure.
Can he talk?
Yes, he can.
Well, there you go. All right, I'm sorry. I keep taking us off track, and I'm going to blame the cough syrup that I'm on. So,
there you
go. Yeah.
Very cool. All right. Well, I will obviously read the troll voice. I've been practicing this voice for a few days now. Hopefully, we'll get it right.
Whoa.
But Agnes, what other parts? Who should read what?
I can do the narration since I know Stevie said he's not feeling too great. There's also
I'm a little bit more excited now, so I think I'm good.
Oh, okay.
I've got some energy.
Who would you like to read then?
Oh, I would love for you to pick me one.
How about Puck?
Let's do Puck.
Okay, I'll have you do Puck. And did you want to maybe also do Brachus?
Yeah, I'll do Puck and Brachus since I am obviously the Roman here.
Alrighty.
Yes.
Cool.
Any special accents we're supposed to do?
Oh yeah.
Brachus technically has a Scottish accent.
Oh God. You will get a mixture of Irish and Scottish, and I'm pretty sure I'm going to offend anyone from over there.
That's okay. The readings I've had in the past at conventions, I just do not do the accent because I've tried like practicing at home. It just doesn't work. So,
aye, laddie. You just got to say Lucky Charms and Guinness.
That's Irish, dude.
Well, no one's going to know, but now they're going to know because you told them.
I'll know, Stevie.
You'll know. That's all that matters. Okay, well, I'm going to still try. Okay.
All right. There's a couple smaller characters, but I'll just read those because they're literally one-liners.
Okay, so I'm Puck and Brachus.
Alrighty. And Brachus scanned the cave with his eyes. The walls seemed to be adorned with strange, barely legible scribbles in a language he was not familiar with, accompanied by drawings. He was about to say something to Puck when his train of thought was interrupted.
And fifth does not like 'em when visitors brings coldsome into nice warm's cave.
That's
a voice
great.
From the dark spoke. Puck gripped his staff as Brachus and Link unsheathed their swords, readying themselves in defensive stances. Darius's fingers sparked with magic while Jason called up Hellbringer, and Annetta drew her sword. Out of the shadows hobbled the strangest creature Annetta or Jason had ever seen. It had a grin so wide and a face so wrinkly that were it not for the shaggy brown hair atop its head, she would have had difficulty recognizing where its face started and ended. In one tiny, withered, barely useful hand, it seemed to be carrying what looked like a small stone that had one side worn out as if it had been used for scraping against rock.
Now, what's be so important that yous has to interrupt him Fevj in making his master arts?
The thing growled in an angry tone, indicating at the carvings on the wall, which Annetta deemed almost childlike in appearance. But as she looked closer, she noticed the subject was far from the imagination of a child, due to the violence and other unseeming subjects depicted in the scenes. It made her want to turn away, and she lowered her head.
What? You no liking them?
The thing walked straight over to Annetta. No, they're very lovely. She responded almost automatically from being put on the spot. What is that thing? Jason asked off to the side, looking at Puck, who stared back at it, stone-faced.
That would be a troll.
Puck said quietly under his breath.
Oh.
Fevj rebri no be something. Fevj troll folk.
The troll, obviously hurt, scoffed, then turned to look back at what seemed to be crudely set up fireplace with multiple fish roasting over it.
I also happens to be troll folks with delicious foods and fire. Wonderful life, is it not?
Oh. Thainstorm? We ain't got time for this.
Brachus hovered over the shoulder of the elf.
It's going to get dark soon, and we need to find shelter.
He's right, Master, Darius added. The temperatures will drop to a point where the horses could die on us.
No speak someone Fevj talks. That be's Fevj rules here. Don't make 'em send Fenrikins after yous.
The creature warned as he continued his rant, having gotten everyone's attention once more. He sat down on the rock before the fire and began gorging himself on one of the cooked fish.
Too bad you don't has lovely cave like Fevj does, with oh so cozy fire and fishes for eatin'.
This is ridiculous. Let's just go, Annetta said, not enjoying the troll's attitude. I bet there's 100 caves other than this one around here.
You cans if you likes, but no caves for another 100 leagues or so.
The troll said nonchalantly, cleaning off the fish bones on the stick and tossing them into the fire before grabbing another.
Fish is so tasty and juicy. Such good foods.
Can't I just kill the thing and put it out of its misery?
Brachus squinted as the troll continued to ramble, mostly to himself on the other side of the cave.
All them wrinkles are hurting my eyes.
What's the matters, Rabbit Wolf Flatfoot? Mads from colds?
The toothy, wrinkled grin glared at Brachus, making the hurts flatten his ears in a threatening manner.
Now, speak 'em. What brings you to here?
We're off to find the son of Lord Ironhorn of Morwick, who has been captured by Yarmir and the giants.
Puck began.
Oh, I hope the little cow gets eaten by them.
The troll grinned widely in delight, watching the reaction of all those around.
Anything more to story?
We're on a journey to unite the four forces.
The mage continued in the same steady tone.
Races from different universes that once stood together and vanquished the armies of Mordred, the Conqueror. After many years, his son, Mislantis, has raised another army and plans to accomplish his father's dream to rule all universes. Lord Ironhorn is in no state to speak with us due to the grief caused by the capture of his son, and so we must find him. We must get him back if there is to be any hope of us bringing together those who once stood against those who threaten the lives of all living things, including your own.
There seemed to be a moment of connection as the crumpled face blinked and looked up at the mage with sympathy. Puck's shoulders relaxed, seeing his task accomplished, only to have the thing begin to laugh in a shrill tone, throwing its wrinkled head back.
Hey, nice stories, but Fetch has more important stuff to consider, likes which fish to eat next. Has fun with quest. I hope the Dark One wins.
The troll chuckled and went back to his business. Puck placed a hand on Brachus, who was clutching his sword, then strode towards the self-proclaimed theft Rebri, facing the creature with the same stony face before bowing.
Master Rebri, my companions and I are not from these parts. We are travelers from the far place, and we look for shelter for the night. Would it be possible to share fire with you in exchange for some more tales? Oh, oops. I see you sell your... That was not supposed to be Brachus, was it?
No.
And no one was going to tell me. I see yourself are a master storyteller.
The mage tried to appeal to the troll.
I don't know. This'll be far more entertaining than stories. I have to think about it while I eat another fish.
Fetch grinned as he cracked open another flaky morsel and began stuffing his face. Link stepped towards the mage with his hand on the hilt of his sword, having had enough. I don't think this is going to go anywhere, if I may say so. Losing his temper as well, Darius strode forward to solve the conflict. Hey, listen, buddy, it's cold outside, we're tired, and we need a place to stay. I don't think you need all the space anyways, so if you... Before another syllable could be uttered by the youth, a slimy object collided with his face, causing him to fly back and land on his rear. Scrambling up, startled by the assault, Darius curled his fists, noting the large fish that had just hit him, that had just hit him on the floor.
Aye, has herring. Your argument? Invalid.
The troll replied flatly. Puck shot a look at Darius to keep his resolve and looked back at the troll.
Perhaps we should come to some sort of agreement, something that can benefit us all.
Fetch hunched over on his rock, twirling hair in his fingers as he contemplated his next move.
There be some no visitors in Fetch Rebri's cave. Nopes. Not without some taxes to be paid.
The wrinkly thing folded its arms across its massive belly. The troll looked around the cave, stroking his creased face until his eyes landed on Annetta. Picking off a piece of the fish in his hands, he slowly placed it in his mouth as he eyed her from head to toe, a rumbling, low chuckle erupting from inside of him. In response, she immediately flung a rock using her psychic abilities, knocking the fish from his hands.
She's touching me!
The creature began to wail hysterically.
Nasty little girl!
Whoa.
Having taken a few steps back, Puck retrieved something from his pack, while Annetta provided a distraction. The mage then strode forward, stepping in front of Annetta.
You'll have to forgive her. She's a little bit feral. We usually keep her caged up, but she was sniffing out game. We will gladly pay the tax you require in exchange for the hospitality of your home.
The elf said, keeping his bow low. The troll muttered for a few moments, rubbing his hands together as his mind registered what was being said to him, and turned to the mage, stroking his face once more.
Sees this stone theft likes.
The troll grinned impossibly wider.
What's some gods for theft, just taxes?
Is this me?
Yep.
Oh, sorry. As you know, we are but humble travelers, and though we have not much aside from weapons and clothing upon our backs, we do hold one thing that we prize above all else.
Puck said, and pulled out a modest parcel from his robes.
This jewel-encrusted mirror was given to us by the first mage of Aldamore for services performed for his lands. We offer it to you and hope it is sufficient for what we require.
Ooh.
Theft reached out his tiny, crooked arms, leaning forward as he did so, since they barely reached past his head, and pried the parcel away from Puck to open and admire the mirror on his own.
Theft likes shiny mirror.
Annetta, Jason, Link, and Darius were not sure what to make of the scene as Theft fussed over the mirror. As soon as the creature turned the mirror around to look at his reflection, however, he froze and turned to stone.
What?
I did not see that coming. Wow.
Why did he turn to stone?
There was a hex placed on the mirror.
You've upset Andy.
No, I love it. It just totally caught me by surprise.
Wow. I love the ending. And Andy's reaction. Why did he turn to stone?
It's funny because when I originally wrote that scene, it was about half the size, but my beta readers got it, and they're like, you need to expand this, and you need to milk this for all it's worth. Like, you need to make this troll as much of an internet troll as you can.
Oh, yeah, I could see that now.
Yeah.
Very nice. Andy, loved your troll accent. Was mine still Irish?
Yeah.
It's okay.
We're going to say yes.
Okay,
yes,
okay.
Yes.
Well, he was, what was the name? Bakar?
Brachus.
Brachus was Irish today.
Yeah. I was doing the Gungan, the high Gungan voice. That's
I knew it.
I recognized it.
Yes, I was wondering.
I didn't want to stray into the Jamaican, sort of that stereotypical Jamaican. That would have been super racist. So I tried to stick with the Gungan thing.
Me so no like this.
Exactly.
I was gonna say something, but I didn't know if y'all would understand it. Like if wow.
Stevie, come on.
What? I'm just saying. I always have to ask, Miss Agnes, did you notice my awesome Boba Fett here?
I did, and I noticed your mug as well.
Oh, thank you. Yes. I'm actually preparing to get a tattoo of the Jedi symbol on my forearm, so.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah, so I can anger my parents. My dad, he still doesn't know the title of my 2 books. Like, I tell him every day, and he just does not get it. And it's hilarious. Like, are you still writing books? And I'm like, yeah, Dad. It's who I am. He's a big outdoorsman, so. And we're in Texas, so.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Wow, we're really far away from each other, Agnes. But I will say I love Canada. Absolutely adore Canada. I went to wow, I'm gonna look so stupid here. What are those falls called again? The waterfalls?
Niagara Falls?
Yeah. Oh wow. Our listeners are probably like, so we got the giant and the stupid one. Yes, I love the Niagara Falls, and it was so beautiful. I mean, I froze my ass off. But it was still, if I would have froze there in place and died, I would have died happy. It was around Christmas time, so.
Oh, okay.
I wish I was riding at that point because I could really came up with like a really cool ice territory for one of my lands. That gives me an idea.
Yeah, exactly.
So I really liked. So was this in which book was this in? The first or the second?
This was in the first book, so this is in Q16.
And could you explain something to our listeners real quick? So they go through this portal, and then they're in the regular world, right? And then they're transferred to a fantasy world.
So the Eye to All Worlds is actually the castle, and it has portals to various different worlds within it.
Okay.
It's the castle is located in a place where the fabric of all universes is weakest, so it'll create natural tears.
Can we know why they go there?
They're trying to put together an army that will help to prevent a warlord from trying to take over that castle, so he can have access to all worlds.
Oh, yeah, that seems really important. Okay. Yeah. Awesome. Yeah, I didn't want to give away too much of your book to our listeners, but you said you went to a convention?
Yeah, I do a couple every year. So I'm usually at Fan Expo in Toronto. I've done Ad Astra for the last couple of years, which I also got to be a panelist there, which was really cool. And wow. I've also I'm doing CanCon in the fall in Ottawa. I did Limestone a couple of weeks ago. I think that's kind of it for the bigger ones. And then I do a couple of random one-day small ones where I'm just there selling my books.
Is it, so, how does that go for you? Is it pretty successful?
Yeah. I never kind of come back and haven't sold a book. So.
Okay, yeah. Andy, we got to do that, man.
Yeah, absolutely.
We got to take this show on the road.
You guys should come to Ad Astra next year. I'm just saying.
Where is that?
It is in Richmond Hill. It's in Toronto.
Okay, I've never been to Toronto, so. And
you guys should definitely check it out, though.
What time of the year is that?
I believe they're moving it. This year it was in May, and I actually did my book launch there for the second novel in the Q16 series.
Man, that's a blast.
Yeah,
it's a way to blast it. Wow, very nice.
Also got to hang out with a bunch of authors I probably wouldn't meet under normal circumstances.
So yeah. Cool. That's awesome.
I know. I was so jealous.
Yeah, that was pretty cool.
Oh, who'd you meet? Does Andy know?
Yeah, she was on a panel with Brandon Sanderson. It's just like,
what?
Oh yeah, I'm on a panel.
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't even say Brandon Sanderson. Oh my gosh, he's awesome.
I try to be humble about these things. So
well, he's a really nice guy, and he seems humble as well. So, like,
yeah, he was really cool. I'll say this: they say don't meet your heroes. Brandon Sanderson is one of those people that becomes your hero because you meet him, and that's the highest level of praise I can give to somebody.
Wow, I love that. Did you come up with that yourself?
Yeah.
I like that. I'm gonna start using it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I came on to Brandon Sanderson from I went through his courses on YouTube. So, and I highly suggest any writer to go through his fantasy courses. So, they're supposed to be sci-fi fantasy, but he just ends up shoving sci-fi out of the way. It just becomes a fantasy class, so it's awesome.
Yeah.
But that's all you are gonna tell us. Wow. That's really cool.
I know, it was so cool to see that. I was like, what?
Yeah.
I also did get to meet Nicholas Eames really briefly. I was on another panel with him as well.
But, we have him on July 28th. This is
Yep, that's his book.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
How is he? Is he cool?
Yeah, also really, really cool, really nice. So
yeah, he's got a funny Twitter. He's a funny tweeter. I'll be at the gym and I'll just like start chuckling. And I'm hoping none of the other gym rats are gonna ask me what I'm laughing. I'm like, oh, it's a fantasy author that I follow on Twitter. Like, dude.
I think I'm the only person in the gym who actually goes with geeky shirts all the time. So I'm really identifiable. Yep. Yeah.
I have a Goku shirt that says I'm training to create my super bomb, or what are they called? I'm training to be like Goku is one of them. So
the super
okay, Saiyan?
Yeah. Okay. Well, Andy,
that's 6:30. Yeah. So Agnes, why don't you just tell all of our viewers, readers, listeners where they can find you and your books and everything about you?
Okay, so the easiest place to find everything about me is my website, which is aayankiewicz.com. And but I'm also on Facebook. I am on Instagram. I am on Twitter, and I'm also on Goodreads.
Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Weird Al Yankovic. That's why your name sounds so familiar.
Yep. That's kind of what I tell people when they have trouble pronouncing it. It's just like Weird Al.
You're probably hoping neither Andy or I didn't spot that. Andy and I always get it, though. We always get it. We always bash the names of our authors.
We don't bash them. We're just so bad at pronouncing them.
Yeah, it's not like we're writers or anything.
You know what? Because I speak Polish, pretty much any name that I come across for the first time, and this is especially in fantasy, I will pronounce with a Polish accent.
You speak Polish?
Yeah.
What? Okay, you got to say something in Polish now.
Okay. Let me think. Dziękuję bardzo, że mieliście mnie dzisiaj wieczorem na waszym podcaście.
Why, thank you. I do look rather fine today. No, what did you say?
I was just saying thank you to you guys for having me tonight on your podcast.
Well, awesome. Well,
that's awesome. Yeah.
Thank you very much for being here. I think your post on Facebook was our best post so far for right, Andy? Were you checking that out?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So. People seem to like you.
Yeah, not just Andy and I. So, yes, thank you very much for being here, Agnes.
That's awesome. All right. Well, that is our show for today. Next week, we're going to be doing our episode on Monday or Tuesday, I believe, with Megan Haskell and her Senyate Dark Fantasy series, which was really awesome. Really looking forward to that one. Yeah.
Dark Fantasy. Andy's sweating. He's getting excited.
Oh yeah.
So I'm gonna have to go check out more Portal Fantasy. You've really intrigued me here. So I'm gonna have to go and look at your books as well. Are they on Audible by chance?
Not yet. We just got access to ACX a couple weeks ago in Canada. So it's definitely something that I'll be pursuing, but they are available in ebook and hardcover, paperback, you name it.
Well, you should totally hire Andy to do the troll. That was excellent. And if you have any half Irish, half Scottish people, let me know.
Will do.
Yeah. Well, that's it, guys, for another fantastical episode of the Fantasy Fiends podcast. I'm Stevie, the gnome, and we are saying goodbye to Andy, the 6'5" giant. Agnes, thank you so much. Oh, are you serious? Wow. Now you're just, you're just kicking sand into my wounds.
Just showing off.
Okay, I'm 5'8.5". How about that?
There you go.
Wow, okay.
That totally counts.
I wish I had a portal right here and I could just stick my foot through it. And yeah.
All right, that's our show, guys.
All right, see you guys.
Yes. Bye, Agnes. Thank you.
Bye.